Okay, hey guys. This is our third This is the third Pro-E workshop, or Creo, I guess, as it's now called. Okay, so just a recap of last workshop. Last workshop we had covered the extrude and revolve features, and if you had missed it, we actually had posted it on our website at AIAA.UCF.com. And you can find it under our career resources at the Creo Pro-E workshop. My internet's really slow, so I've already pulled it up. And we got this whole website, and we have the you can watch the stream from last week's sorry, last week's video, and we also have a step-by-step instruction which I had made, which is available to download here. I will plan to make a step-by-step for this workshop as well. I don't know when I'll be able to get that up because I have a lot of stuff to do this weekend, but I will, once I'm done with this video, I'll go ahead and post it onto YouTube, which will eventually be linked back onto here. As you can see, video 1 is still not up. I'll eventually get back through and get back to it. So anyways, the program that you guys are want to open up is Creo Parametric 2.0, which will look like this. So you open that up and you'll get this view of a screen. You can X out of this little window here that pops up. As I've said in previous workshops, this one just gives you, like, there's some student resources you can access, like some free downloads. There's some tutorials available on here, so you can kind of go through things and see. Yes, but we're not going to use that for now, so just X out of that. So in this workshop, what we're going to be covering is how to use blend protrusions. This is a very useful tool. It's let's say it's useful because if you have an extrude, sorry, back that up. It creates shapes that tools such as revolve and extrude, mostly extrude, can't make in themselves. And by that I mean it's like, say you have a tapered shape, and I'll show you some examples. Actually, let me pull one up right now. So the example I'm going to be pulling up is actually one that I've ended up using for something a model I created for one of my classes. If you end up taking measurements 2, you'll have to make design your own wind tunnel, and this is the general shape of our wind tunnel, and by that I mean I've gone through and I've modified some of the dimensions so that it's not exactly what we've done, so that you guys don't cheat. But nah, kidding. So anyways, what a protrusion is that's how I create all these shapes. The ones that are straight through are just regular extrudes. All these ones that look like they have tapered edges, those are all protrusions. It is very useful for creating shapes like this, but you can also use it to create shapes like the propeller in our the blade in our propeller example. And let me just find that, open it up. There we go. So, see how these blades were made using the protrusion tool as well. So it might be kind of hard to see, but they're actually turned to a certain degree, so you can make straight-on shapes, kind of like what's going on with the wind tunnel, or you can turn your shape and create a kind of twist to your shape too. So, anyways, there's several different ways you can create these blend protrusions, and I'll actually use both of these examples. We'll create one of these sections within this wind tunnel without using one method, and then we're going to use the create the blade of the propeller using another method. And so for the first example, we're going to use the straight method of creating the protrusion. And by what that I mean, and I'll show you this. So let's create a new part. So go to New up here in the corner. If in the main window that had first showed up, it'll be a little icon over here to the side. So in this window, you want to click, make sure that part's selected, and you can go ahead and we're going to use the solid type. So for the name, you can call it anything. I'm going to create this first shape right here, which is our wide angle diffuser. And you click OK. So you'll, oops, sorry, hold on, my datums are hidden. So you'll come up with a screen like this. What you want to do is that notice that over here on your model tree, you have the right and the top and the front planes, but they're not labeled in the main view. You'll want to turn those on. So go over here to this plane tag display, click it, and now you have your view. So what we're going to do is that we're going to start making the first shape. So what we want to do is we want to line it up so that we can start sketching. So what you want to do is go over here, so under the View tab, Named Views, and we want to select Front. So now we're going to start sketching our our protrusion, our blend. Just so you guys know, you can't have more, and I'll show you what exactly will happen, but you can't have more than one loop, and by that I mean more than one closed loop within each protrusion. So you can't create, so in the, like, if you've probably experimented with the extrude tool before, you can see that you can create like that box, you can create that frame within the extrude tool and extrude it out. You cannot do that with the blend tool. So let's just open up the blend tool. Sorry, kind of sidetracked in there. So under the model tab, you want to go to the shapes and click the down button and select blend. So select that and wait for the blend tab to open, which it will here. There you go. So this is a little bit different than using the extrude and the revolve, and it can get trickier. This tool is one of the ones that's very easy to mess up with. So, but they've actually made it a lot more user-friendly than in Creo 2.0 than it is in previous versions of Pro-E. So I'll show you. Actually, this step right here, is pretty much the same as it is in previous versions, but yeah, it's a lot more user-friendly. So in this first section, what we're going to do, we're going to create that first box shape that makes the smaller face of the wide angle diffuser. And for those of you who haven't taken measurements yet, don't know it yet, the wide angle diffuser is part of the wind tunnel design when you have the blower for your wind tunnel hooked up to so that it pushes the air rather than sucks it through, and the wide angle diffuser is the side that hooks up to the blower. It's so the longer side that you have seen earlier is the exit diffuser. So in this view, we're going to sketch the smaller face first. So what you want to do is go to Define, and then for our sketch plane, we want to select Front. And then we're good with whatever reference pops up, since only really two should pop up, and that's the top plane or the right plane. So you go ahead and select Sketch. Okay, so we can start creating our shape. So we can go ahead and use the rectangle tool. As I've said before, or probably said before, I prefer to use the line tool because you can easily set your you can create one line, set the size that you want there so that Pro-E zooms into it. But for now, we're good with using just the square tool. So let's go ahead and create the shape. There you go. and we want to make this one 3.75 on the top by 4 inches on the side. So we can start by setting this one to 3.75 divided by 2. Press enter. And then this one's just the full 3.75. Then enter. And let's see, there it is, and there it is. So we want to set this one to 4 divided by 2, which, yeah, I know. I could have just typed in 2, but I like using the math function within this thing. And this one's just 4. So what you want to do is when you go in to create other sketches for your protrusion, you want to keep note of what your starting line is for your first shape, because this is very important, and I will show you how it is very easy to screw this up to not create the shape that you want because of this. You want to create, when you create your other sketches, you want to create them all, where is the sketch? You want to create them all from the using the same starting point on the same side, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So for this offset reference, we want to make it, this is the distance from the offset, so it's, let me see, and I'm holding out my middle button, the roller button, and rotating and just moving it around. So that's how far you'll extrude the protrusion out. So we're going to set that to 6.5. And then push enter. So now we can go in and sketch because it's already going into your second shape. I'm just going to put my view back to where it is. So under the view tab, go view, front. So notice you can see your view, and you can still see where your starting point is. You want to keep note of that, and you want to start all your shapes from that same point, unless you want to create a rotation. So we go in here, and you just create the box. Notice over here, you might see that little arrow? That means that it's symmetrical about that line. We actually want that, at least in this case. If you are creating a shape and you want it to be a little bit offset, so say you want it to be kind of looking like this. So it'll go from the big box to the small box. Then you don't want the symmetrical about this top line. But we want it to be symmetrical about both lines because we want those X's to be in the middle, these reference datums to be in the middle for both of our things, because it makes it easier for references, like for this sketch. So go ahead and click, like left click it to set your thing, and then notice my tool is still active. You want to middle click to exit out of that. So now, since we're symmetric about these two lines, we do not need to set this middle dimension right here, or on either side. So just go ahead and enter the values that we want. And we want it to be 5.5 horizontally by 8 inches vertically. So since both of our starting points are in the same plane, we can go ahead and select OK. And there we go. We got a nice blend protrusion and all this. So remember when I mentioned earlier, I said we were going to start creating a straight blend. What I mean by that is that here you have two different options for your blended surfaces. Since we only are going between two boxes, it doesn't really matter which one we select now. Just for the sake of consistency, I'm going to select the straight one, but I will show you guys later exactly what that other option, the smooth option, does, because it can easily give you the shape that you do not want. And the same thing for the straight, depending on what kind of shape you want to make. So we're done with these two right here. What was I going to say? So I was going to give you guys an example of what exactly I meant by you want to make sure your two starting points are aligned. So I'm going to go back into the sketch. You guys don't have to follow me if you don't want to for this step. But let's say I start sketching there. So when I created my rectangle, I started from this corner and I dragged it out this way. And if you did that and it's turning out to be funny, if it looks kind of funny like this, which if you pay attention to the way that I'm fixing it right now, you can go back through and fix it. I'll go back through and fix my thing later. So I'm just going to select OK, and that's what can happen to your protrusion if you start from the wrong starting point. So I'm going to go back in and fix it. You can probably hit Control Z. That might fix it too. Pro E is not really consistent with the Control Z. You hit Control Z and it'll go, if you have already done clicked outside, like over here to the side, it will not go back. It's kind of funny that way. Okay, so we've actually got the shape that we want now. So we just go ahead and select OK. So now we want to go in and create a cut through the middle to create the walled surface, because when you make your wind tunnel, you're making it out of 0.75 inch, like a 3/4 inch sheet of foam. So we want to create those walled surface. If you model it like this, it's easy to get the dimensions on the inside that you want and stuff like that. So go back to the model tab, hit the down button in the shapes tool, and then select blend. Wait for it to pop up, and now we have this sections thing. So we're going to still use this sketch sections selection, and I'm going to go to define. When the plane pops up, you can select the front tab. I'm going to select this surface, the smaller surface, and the right datum is still okay. So we can go ahead and select sketch, and I'm going to set it up so that I can see from the front plane. So named view is front. So actually, no, I do not want that view. You want to go to the back, so that you can kind of see where the line is. What we're going to use is the offset tool. And to get a clean offset in without having to erase some features, you can select this loop tool, select this whole green surface that's highlighted right now, and then notice that the arrow is actually pointing in the direction that we want, and that all 4 surfaces are your square highlighted. That you want to make sure whenever you use this tool that actually happens, and that those are all the surfaces that you want. So now we have this, we can go in and offset it by 3/4 or 0.75, and you can put enter, and there you go. The highlighted section is now your closed loop for this. So you can go ahead close, and we can hit OK. So now we want to go in and create our second shape based off of this surface right here. So now we have this, and in this window, in the last protrusion we had used this offset dimension. Now we want to actually switch it and use this reference tab. So select the reference, and it'll ask you to highlight, to choose what surface you want the thing to go up to. You can only do this if you already have a pre-existing, like a datum plane or a pre-existing surface that you want to go up to. So it's already, since it's red like this, it's already selected, but if you end up clicking elsewhere, you can go back into the box by clicking into the box. So go in and make sure this surface is highlighted, which it's kind of awkward to see there. So this surface is highlighted, select it, and see here, this dashed line, it goes to these things. So you go ahead and select sketch, and sorry if my roommates are being really loud and you can hear them through the microphone. So we want to go in and use the exact same offset tool, and you can go ahead and set it to the front view, but yeah, I'll go ahead and do that, sorry. It's not really necessary if you know what you're doing, because you can still see the lines pop up, but we can go ahead and do that anyways. So use the offset tool, which is this tool right here, click it, then you want to select loop again, and select this big surface, and there you go, all the edges that you want are highlighting. And the arrow, pay attention to the arrow, because that's when you enter your direction up here, that's the direction it'll be going in. So you go ahead and enter in 0.75, because the thickness does not change. And you go ahead and click close, or you can hit middle click and that'll exit out of it too. And then you want to select OK, because we're done there. But notice that it's still not cutting away the material. So what we want to go in is select this button right here, the remove material button, and there you go. It cuts away the material that we want. So make sure everything looks good the way you like it. I like how it looks. So I'm going to hit OK, and there you go. So those are some of the, so that's how you use the straight function for the straight option for creating a blend tool. And I use this one as an example. We could, I'm actually gonna, I actually created a drawing using for the wind tunnel, and I'll post it up on the AIAA website as with the step-by-step instruction as well, so that you guys can, if you want, you can use that as a basis to go ahead and create this that shape. That shape as practice for creating the blend tool, using the blend tool. Sorry. So I'm just gonna show you guys exactly what the drawing looks like. If it loads. There we go. So it might be hard to see the dimensions and all that from here. Like I said, I'll post a link so you guys can download this online. I'll just scroll through it in case any of you guys watching this video want to pause it and use this as a reference. Okay, so I'm just going to exit out of that. Like I said, it'll be available on the website. So we're done with this one. You guys can save it because that's actually the part that I dimensioned out on the website too. So you guys can save it if you want to. I'm just going to keep it up just in case. So I'm going to minimize that one, and I'm going to open up this propeller because this will be our next example. So this one will be created using the smooth tool, and it's actually it can be a little bit tricky to actually, never mind. I'll go back through and get into more detail of that later. So in the previous workshop, I had asked you guys to create, and let me just open up the part. I'd asked you guys to go and create a shape like this. So what we're going to do is that we're going to use this shape to create that protrusion off of, and then in the later workshop we're going to, in the next workshop we're going to go in and we're going to pattern that protrusion all the way around the nose of the cone, just like you saw in this view. Okay, so anyways, to start this off, we're going to want to create our datum. We're going to create datum planes to place the sketch on. So to do that, you want to go under the model tab, under the datum section, you want to go to select the plane tool, and this window will pop up. So let's select the top plane, and notice where the arrow is going again. I want to create it in this direction since I'm already kind of, this direction since I'm already kind of looking at this view. So I want to offset the first one by -150 because of the direction that the arrow is going. So I press enter, and there's your first datum plane. And you want to select OK. So there you go, you got datum plane 1. So we're going to create another plane, and we're going to want to use datum plane 1 as the reference. So just go ahead and select it. This one, we want to offset it by a value of 100. Anyway, click OK, and let me just adjust my window. Okay, so we want to create another one because we want 4 datum planes. So go to the tool again, select this one, and now it's offsetting in the other direction. Why is my phone going crazy? So, sorry. So we want it to go in the -100. Yeah, there you go. So go ahead and click OK. Go to datum tool again and create our last datum plane offset by the same value. So now this one automatically pops up. Make sure the offset is offset in the right direction, right reference, and we're good. So go ahead and click OK. So now what we want to do is that we want to insert, in the first workshop I had asked you guys to create an airfoil shape using the spline tool. We are going to use that sketch and insert it into this drawing. If you guys either missed out on the first workshop or were not able to create, or guys do not have we're not able to create a airfoil shape to use for this one, probably at the end of this video I will show you guys how to make another one, or I'll put the data file, the sketch file that I have on my computer up onto the website so you guys can download it and use it. So once you have a airfoil shape that you want to use, you can go ahead, what you want to do is you want to click this sketch tool, which is under the model tab and the datum section. So I click sketch. For the plane, you want to select datum 1, and for the reference, we want to select the right plane. Oh, actually, no, sorry. We want to select for the, go back to the sketch plane, and you want to select this top plane. And the front plane is still okay for the reference. So you go ahead and select sketch. So now we get this view. What you want to do is we want to go in and view it from the side. So I believe it is the view and then top, and you get a side view. So you want to, so this for the sketch plane, we want to select the reference. We want to add this top part of the top line going across it as a reference, because we want to put this first shape will be a circle, and that will be the start from the center of the cone, and it will come out and then go from the circle to the airfoil shape. And then we're going to go to the reference tab, select that, and notice that we have the two references. Do not delete those. We're just going to add another one to it. So select this top surface right here so that it looks like this, and then we can go ahead and click close. So we're going to add a circle that's in the middle of it. So select the circle tool, and we're going to come over and notice that it'll automatically want to click onto this plane. That's good. So just go ahead and select OK and extrude out. So we want to select the reference tool, and then select these two lines, and then middle clock off to the side, and that'll create a reference dimension between these two planes. You are not directly influencing the line, the distance between these two. You're just using that reference as a dimension. So it might be hard to see, but you have a dimension in here. Oh gosh, sorry. See, that's what happens when you have a tool active and you don't really realize it. So select this tool. We want to set the diameter of this circle to 25 and hit enter. I want to select the dimension right here. We want to set that to 55 divided by 2. So we have the shape that we want. So we just go ahead and click OK. And notice that they're not asking you to go directly into creating an extrude or a protrusion like I did in the revolve tool and stuff like that, because we're just creating a sketch for now, which really doesn't do anything besides putting a pre-made shape on a datum. So we want to go ahead and create and now we want to start inserting our airfoils onto one of these datum planes. So for the datum plane, we want to select this first one. And for the reference, we want to select the front plane. And we want to go ahead and select sketch. I'm going to go ahead and put it back into the top view. There we go. And it might be hard to see, and what we're going to do now is that we're going to add that circle to our list of references, and I'll show you why in a second. So if it's having a hard time highlighting, like this edge keep highlighting, you can just right click, not hold it down like you do to like lock dimensions and stuff like that, but just hit it once and it will shuffle through all the things that are in your line of view until you find the circle, and select it and I'll add it to the references. So go ahead and click close. So now to bring in a already pre-made sketch from a file, what you want to do under the sketch tab, select the file system, which is under the get data, and it'll open up in this window wherever you set your working directory, which is where you're currently saving all your files to. Or you can shuffle through all your already pre-made files that are all listed over here to your common files, and you can find wherever you ended up putting up your sketch file. So this is my pre-made one, so I'm just going to go ahead and open it. And notice that it just adds this little, like what my mouse looks like right now. It will not automatically start locking in onto any of your references or onto the center axis, which is where we want it to lock on. So I'm just going to go over and click over here. You can zoom in, and you already see that it brought my shape in. Where this X in a circle is, that's your center for your sketch plane. So we actually want to align this with the center of this circle over here. So what you want to do is left click it, and then just drag it over, and then it'll want to lock onto your circle. So go ahead and do that. So now what we want to do is set this rotate to, let me see, just double check. I want to set it to 60 degrees. And then we want to set the scale, which is this option right here, to 40. And since we created this shape on a basis of a 1-inch airfoil, it'll pretty much saying that you're making the baseline, which is this right here, 40 inches. So we want to go ahead, and since it's all the center axis, these two centers are locked onto each other, we got the angle that we want, we got the scale that we want, we can go ahead and click this green arrow button. So there we go, we got our first sketch. Everything looks good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So there we go, we've got our first airfoil shape inserted in, but notice that nothing's going on, nothing's happening yet. We want to insert all of our airfoil shapes into it before we actually start protruding things out, because you'll see it'll make it a whole lot easier to bring this stuff in. So we want to go ahead and click the select the sketch tool again. For the plane, this time we want to select Datum 2. And we want to select the front view for our reference. If you're having a hard time actually seeing the view, you can just select it over here in the model tree, and it'll still put it into this box right here. Go ahead and select Sketch. I'm going to set it to top view again. Notice it's hard to see. You can't really see any of your other previous shapes. So what you want to do for sketch, go to the references again. And there we go. There's our circle. Add it, close. So now we want to bring in another the airfoil, same airfoil again, just a different rotation, this different scale. So your sketch will automatically select again, so go ahead and click open. Off to the side, and you want to align the two centers up to the circle again. So for the rotation angle, we want to set this one to 70. And then for the scale, we want this one to be 65. And hit enter, and there it'll scale it to the shape we want. And everything looks good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And everything looks good here again, so I'm just going to go ahead and click OK again. Let's zoom out and then show you guys what it looks like now. Let's go and insert the next airfoil in. So select Datum plane 3 this time, and then for the reference, select the front plane again, and then we want to set sketch. I'm going to put the view to top again. Sketch, references, find the circle. I saw it. There, wait. There it is. And click close. Go to sketch, file system. Select the airfoil you want. Click open. Line up the centers. Now for this rotation angle, we want it to be 80 degrees. And for the scale, we want this one to be 50. Hit enter, and everything looks good here. So I'm gonna go ahead and click OK. And everything looks good here again, so I'm gonna click OK again. So since we've already shown you guys what the other two look like, I'm just gonna go ahead and insert in the last sketch that we want. So hit the sketch tool again, this plane. Since it's hard to see from here, I'm just gonna select it in the model tree right here. So I'm gonna select Datum 4. For the reference, we want the front plane, and then we want sketch. So for references, we want to find the circle, and hit close. So now we want to go in and bring in our airfoil again. So go to File System, open up the airfoil, bring it in, line up to 2 centers. For this rotation angle, we want it to be 85 degrees. And I'm getting these degrees and these scales from a video tutorial that I watched for how to do this. I believe, if I remember right, the explanation that he said for why it's 85 degrees and not a straight on 90 is because something about the force, I guess, if it's a full 90 degrees, it doesn't generate good force. I don't know. Probably, I don't know the science behind turbines and all that all too much, so. For the scale for this one, we want it to be 20 degrees. So everything looks good here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and click the green arrow. Then I'm gonna hit OK here because everything still looks good. And so if you zoom out, you rotate it around, you kind of get an idea of how the program is gonna go ahead about creating your blade. So now we want to go ahead and now it's time to create the blend protrusion that will start from this circle that's hidden in here, and then bring it out all the way down to this last airfoil. And remember me saying earlier that Creo's actually made it a lot more friendly, like user-friendly to do this. This is a perfect example of where it is. Before, you had to, it was very complicated with trying to get all these different, selecting the sketch and all this. You had to use that loop tool that I had used earlier to select these front edge, and then select it, and then you move on to your next one, toggle the section for your next one, go in, do the same thing for this one, go in, do the same one for this, same stuff for this. I'll show you, it's actually a lot easier now. So under the Model tab, you want to go to Shapes, and then select Blend. So for the sections, earlier we were sketching sections because we were creating them one at a time and extruding them out from there. That's if you don't have a pre-existing one like this. What we want to do now, since we've already sketched them out, we already have our sketches all lined up, we want to go from our selected sketches. And if this window pops up, go ahead and click Confirm, because that's just saying that if you were already creating sketches in your sketch sections, it'll delete them when you go into the select stuff. So whatever stuff you've already started making, it'll delete them, because this is like a completely different function selection method. So for this one, we want to click in this box right here, and find the circle. If it's hard to find, you can go to this View tab, go to Display Styles, then Wireframe. Then your circle will probably be easier to find. And if you choose this method, I'll go back and show you how to find it. So for this selection, you want to click this circle first. You want to click the Insert button. And I'm actually going to go back and activate put it back to shading, because it's actually cool to see this thing start protruding it out. So click inside this box, add your second section, and select the sketch right here. And just click Insert again, inside the box, and click your second airfoil. See how it's already kind of rotating the thing to bring it out and bring it out to scale. So we're going to insert again, select items, then we want to select this edge, and then we want to do the same thing, insert, and click inside the box, to click this last sketch to bring it out to your final layer foil. Notice one thing right here. When I hit OK, you'll see this thing's already kind of cutting. The protrusion that we're making is coming out from the center line, which is into this extrude that I had made earlier. This is just a layering issue. All you have to, and I'll show you how to fix that later. So, for the options, we want to make sure that we have smooth selected. Because if not, and this is actually hard to see with this part, but when you have when you select straight, it's not really as smooth as it was before. Because what you're doing is that when you're going between each shape, you're not making a smooth feature. So you're not creating like parabolic lines that connect these three. You're just creating a straight edge that goes through. Sorry. But we want to go ahead and select the smooth line. I'll show you a really good example of this when we're done with this part. So if everything looks good here, so I'm just going to go ahead and click the green arrow, and there you go. Get your protrusion. So what I was saying earlier was that our extrude right here, or my extrude right here, is a cut that I made earlier. Notice that it's actually the protrusion that we just made is interacting with it. To fix this is just a layering issue. Since we have all these items, whoa, see, that's what you do. All these items right here that are all connected to this, you can either select this one, hit shift, hit this, and then click that one, and then drag them all up so that they're in front of this extrude function, or you could just drag it all the way down to the bottom, wait for it to regenerate everything, and notice that it's not there anymore, which is exactly what we want. It's just a layering issue. So if you ever encounter something like that, just simply left click and then drag it down, and then put it where you need it to be. This is a very common error that you run into when it comes to creating parts. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, so we're done with this part. You can go ahead and save it if you want to. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to go back and show you guys a good example of the difference between that smoothing and this straight line function, and how it really affects how your thing looks. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this. So please make sure you have this general shape here, because what we're going to be doing later is patterning this thing all the way around the nose of this, sorry. So before I go in and show you guys the thing again, you might notice, for those of you who were at the workshop or have read the step-by-step instruction for last week's workshop online, I'm actually missing something here. What I want to do at the end of this workshop, is to go in and I was bumbling around a little bit last lecture. I'm going to go in, fix it, create the right shape, which is actually a hexagon, not an octagon like I ended up creating, so that next workshop we can go in and pattern that shape around. So, but besides that, I keep going off on a tangent. What we want to do is, I want to show you guys a good example of the difference between the smooth and the straight tool. So, what I'm going to do is the wind tunnel that I had shown you guys earlier. Let me just find it. I'm going to create, which I do not recommend when you actually model it, because it's easier to go in and create an assembly, which is what this is. Actually, not easier, better to do it, is that I'm going to create these three shapes as one protrusion, because it actually serves as a good example of the smooth and straight. So we're going to go into this tool, and in this first blend I'm going to edit it. You guys don't have to follow along with me. I just want to show you guys an example of this. So I'm going to go in and create a couple extra sections. Whoops, wrong one there. Okay, so here's a good example. So what I did there, I started from the wrong section, starting point. I'm going to go in and edit that so it's actually starting from the right one. So if I click at the point I want, which is a hold right, click, not just a simple one click, and then click the select point to change it. And that should do it right, yeah. Now I'm going to go ahead and create another one. And this one will be offset by 5.75. Sketch. View. Front. Sketch window. Create a box. Square. Make sure the symmetric lines appear. They may not appear if you create in your very first shape, your very first square, rectangle, whatever. I have not been able to get my symmetric constraints to appear for me. So that's why when I've created that first square, whereas here I'm using the symmetric constraints, I wasn't using it for the first one. They don't automatically set up. So I'm going to make this one 3.5 plus 1.5. Actually, no. Wrong side. 2.5 plus 1.5. Then this side is 3.5 plus 1.5. Hit enter. We can select OK. And there you go. Well, as I said before, I do not recommend creating your shapes like this, because say you want to edit one side. Here it is kind of easy to go in and fix it, but if you got to do some more intricate stuff, like you might have noticed that I called this intersection right here the honeycomb, and that's because you'll actually have a honeycomb in that section. It might be hard to model it on some computers. I had a friend who went in and modeled his in his computer to run, I think he wanted to run a CFD analysis through his. It ended up making his, the program crashed before he was able to get the program to create the honeycomb, because you're using tiny straws. They're too much of a pattern, because you have almost over, I think, what, 200, 300, I think over up to 1,000 of these little straws, even in such a tiny shape like this. It's enough to cause the computer to crash. Or even in my time at Lockheed, I've worked with assemblies that are like up to I think 700 parts, and even then, those computers are super clean because they have next to none of the stuff like games and stuff like that I have on my computer. Those computers can take up to 10 minutes just to load the, to open up the assembly. So, the reason why I'm doing this is I want to show you guys the difference between the straight and the smooth options. So now it's on the straight and it's actually creating the shape that we want. So, but if we select smooth, see what it does there? That's actually, most of the time when you create an actual wind tunnel, that's the kind of shape you want to get. But I don't mean to confuse you guys, because that's not the kind of shape that you want to make with this wind tunnel. Because since we're making it out of foam sheets, a shape like this would be very hard to make. So we want to just have straight edges for now, especially since it's just a school project. And so that's the difference that we want. We don't want this. We want it to look like this. And sometimes this can be a big, huge, an even bigger difference between what you're seeing here. So I'm just gonna X out of this one because that's not the shape that we want. I was just messing around with that just to show you guys. So that covers that. I'm gonna go back through and fix some of the stuff that I have done wrong in previous lectures. If you guys want to stick around, go ahead. As I said before, I'm going to upload that drawing with the dimensions for all the wind tunnel stuff, and I'd recommend going in and messing with that. Even if you want to, you guys can go in and create an assembly and try to mess around with that, and try to get it to work that way. I won't be covering how to be doing assemblies or how to be doing drawings in any of these workshops, because that just gets even messier than just modeling a simple part. But from what I've learned with working at Lockheed, because when I started at Lockheed, I knew next to nothing about how to model stuff. I just knew pretty much what I'm covering in this workshop. Just the simple basic tools, like how to do the extrude, how to do the revolve, how to use the sketch tools, stuff like that. The biggest thing that's helped me is, besides asking the engineers, having them show me how to do these kind of stuff, all these functions that I do on a daily basis at Lockheed. One thing that's really helped me is just sitting down and creating shapes. One of my friends, who's actually already graduated from UCF, when he had some free time at work, he ended up modeling a sword within Creo. Pro. And I mean, it's just messing around with the program. Whatever you can end up finding. Like, say if you have a water bottle sitting near you, and you have a tool like a ruler or something you can dimension it out with, practice modeling it out on Pro. Just messing with the program is a good way to get the experience you need to get familiar with this program. So, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna fix that nut shape that I was bumbling around with at the end of last week's workshop. So I'm gonna go into the tool that I had pulled, the shape that I pulled up earlier. I'm gonna activate it, view activate it, which if you don't know what the activation button does, if you're flipping between parts, whatever part that you were activated in last. So if you go and open up a part from a fresh new part, whatever part you open up will be your recently active part. But if I say like I've been doing, I wanted to go to this view, I need to activate it before I can do anything within this window, because I'm still technically within this part, messing around within here. So just make sure. So what I want to do is I want to create an extrude for the nuts that rests on come out of this surface. I created this circle earlier. If you want the dimensions for that one, it's a diameter. It's using an extrude cut going in. The diameter is 25, and it's going in by a depth of 20. So what we want to do is go to Model, go to Extrude, and for the Placement tab, go to Define. When the plane option comes up, we want to select the surface, and then for the reference, we want to select what plane is this? The right plane. Either the top plane or the right plane is okay, because we're just going to rotate them around the center axis in next week's workshop. So we can go ahead and click Sketch, So it doesn't matter where necessarily you start, as long as you start in the with a flat shape on one of these axes. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a center line, which when I was using the revolve tool, your center line is located right here. You cannot use that center line now. And the center line I'm making now will not be used to rotate around. This one will be used more as a reference, which it will not appear with when I'm actually model out the shape. So I'm going to click this and make sure that little vertical constraint is active, and then click it, and then leave out of the tool. Might be hard to see this dimension over here, but that's the one we want. And I'm actually just going to add a reference dimension real quick. So use the reference tool, select this outer edge, and then select this datum right here, and then middle click off to the side, and oh, it went way out. I'm just going to drag that in. Okay, so that's 50. We want to put this one, sorry, you don't want it to be from that plane. Sorry, stay with me. So we want to select this inner circle and this outer circle, and select off here to the side. We can actually just delete that reference dimension. We're simply just hitting the delete key will do that. So we want to select the normal dimension because we actually want to change this dimension now. When you use a reference dimension, as I said before, you can't change it. So we want to select this inner circle, and we want to select the center line, and click here. So now we're positioning the center line. We want it to be directly in the middle of this reference. So we want to do 3.37.5 divided by 2. Hit enter, and there now it's aligned directly in the middle of this. So don't hit OK. Like I was just about to do. So what we want to do is we want to create the first side. Sorry. One problem I kept encountered every single time I went to go create this thing is that if I made the entire hexagon first, it would not let me mess with the dimension of each side, even though I set them all to the same side, and I should theoretically be able to go in and edit those sides. It didn't let me. Don't know why, but for some reason it didn't let me. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to set this up. It can be any angle right now. I'm going to middle click off to the side to exit out of the tool, and I'm going to set this side's dimension right now. So I'm going to set that to 5, so that side does not get edited later. I'm going to hold right click and go down to lock that dimension. That means that if I click this endpoint and drag it out, the dimension will not change. So the only way for me to edit this dimension now is to go in and select it like I had done before and manually change it. So I'm just going to enter because I do not want to edit this. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up a constraint so that these two are the same or equal lengths. So hit this equal constraint, and then I'm going to select this side and this one, and there you go. It automatically does it. So I'm just going to middle click out because I am not done with creating the hexagon yet. So select the line tool again, hit it out, make sure that this point ends up on the your center line and locks onto it. You can just make it look however ugly you want because we're going to be going in and fixing it. So it looks like a very off hexagon right now. We want to go in and use the same equal constraint. So select that. Select this top line. Select the side line. Makes those two lines the same dimension. Top line again. Side line. Makes them the same dimension. Top line. Bottom line. Again, same dimension. And the same for this last line. It'll automatically set up all your stop, this thing's so annoying. It'll automatically select it to, like, you notice how before it had all these degrees right here? Now you don't need to manually edit them because just, you know, using geometry, it'll automatically set it up. So what we want to do is that notice that here it's not in the middle, so we can manually set this to 5 divided by 2 so that it's aligned there in the middle. And there we go, we have the shape that we want. So we can go ahead and click OK. And there's our nut. Might look a little bit funny, but just for the sake of showing you guys how to model this kind of stuff, I'm gonna leave it like that. And let's see. I do not remember what dimension I told you guys to bring it out to. So I'm going to go ahead and there we go. So hang with me for a second as I open this up. Okay, so I set the dimension of it to 5. So go in here, hit 5, enter 5 into that box, hit OK, and it'll extrude out. And hit OK, and there we go. We have our first shape our first extrude that represents a nut, and we're gonna in a later workshop revolve that nut around this back surface, around this center axis that I had originally created. We're going to use that same axis to rotate this protrusion around. So, I think that actually wraps it up. I can't think of anything else to talk about in this workshop. So, we're done for today's. So this is the end of the video. If you guys have any questions or need any help with working through this, you can probably, do they have my contact information up on the website? Let me find that out for you. They do not. If you guys come, this week's video will be posted here, or rather, that's how you guys found this. Sorry. The walkthrough will be posted here. The documents will be posted here. And the video will be here too if you end up finding this through YouTube. If you guys need any help, my name is Marissa Penzato, and my contact information can be found on our officers page, which contact us. There we go. That's my name right there. You can contact me through this email. It will be forwarded to my personal email. Or if you guys need any help, you guys can come just stop by the office. A few of our officers are familiar with SolidWorks. A majority of our officers are. A handful of them know Pro E as well. But if you want me personally to help you through with any of your problems, you can either you can send me an email and try to meet up with me, or if I end up being in the office, I'll be happy to help work through with you. Or if you have any issues, I'll be happy to help work through the issues with you guys at next week's workshop. So thanks again for watching this video, and hope this stuff is helpful.